everyone, and welcome back to another fantastic episode of Talking the PS, your weekly show where we round up all of the PlayStation goodness for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/Helix Cloud Games, or up there in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice. You're joining myself, Chris, this week alongside my man of many pixels. Welcome back, Richie.
Hello, everyone.
And below him, our chaotic neutral, joining us once again, Rob. Welcome back.
Hello.
Hello, and welcome to a fantastic show talking about all of the upcoming PlayStation Plus games dropping this very day. PlayStation 5 games being able to be played in the cloud, finally. And Ubisoft basically shitting the bed once again. But before we get into all that, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of the great content we do here. Like tonight, boys and girls, our brand new inaugural show of the ClickerCast starts 8 p.m. tonight, GMT, rounding up all the breakdown of this week's episode of The Last of Us HBO TV series, hitting your screens probably yesterday, the day before, depending on what country you're in. And we're going to round it all up with you, the audience, tonight. So don't forget to join us. Don't forget to follow at the ClickerCast so you're kept in the loop with all that great content. And if you are a fan of The Last of Us, I've just finished my entire playthrough of The Last of Us, including Left Behind DLC. It's available now on the channel. Masterpiece of a game leading to the TV show. So if you want something to whet your appetite ahead of tonight's stream, go check that out. Gentlemen, Richie, specifically, what have you been playing?
I actually jumped into One Piece Odyssey.
And how is the demo?
I enjoyed it, actually. More than I thought I would. The character model is a bit weird. I still can't... It's that anime... Because anime tends to be like 2D drawing stuff. Mm-hmm. When you try to translate that to 3D but kind of keep the aesthetic, it just doesn't work very well, in my opinion. I always think it looks a bit wrong, a bit off.
Simpsons Hit and Run did it pretty well.
Yeah, but it's like once I got over that, it's actually the gameplay is actually pretty solid, and I'm pretty happy, to be honest. If it was a PlayStation Plus or a Game Pass game, I'd definitely be jumping in.
So you're a big One Piece fan, probably
I
more
am,
so
yes.
than the two of us.
I wouldn't recommend it to non-One Piece fans. I think one of the problems is the game kind of takes place about halfway through the story. Mm-hmm. So it assumes quite a bit of background knowledge of the story and who a lot of the main cast of characters are.
And remind us, how many episodes is this show now?
Oh, it's over 1,000.
So about 500 episodes in, just pick up about halfway. What's the type of gameplay in it then? Because we had One Piece, was it World Seeker? About a year or so ago. What's the
World
difference with
Seeker
this one?
was more of an action RPG. So you're just running around the world, you're fighting stuff like as you would in any sort of action RPG. This is more turn-based.
Okay.
So when it's your classic, there's an enemy in the world, you encounter them. It's got a bit of a rock, paper, scissors mechanics in terms of the attacks.
Okay.
So your basic level, each character has a basic attack that it's just attack that will do a certain type of damage and different. And it's either like technical speed or power, and it's that rock, paper, scissors matchup stuff. But then each character's all the special moves and stuff they use throughout the shows and like the manga, like they become like where like your action abilities or your spells in other RPGs and stuff. So you use your tension points, as they call them, to cast them, and they do different effects. It's your kind of classic JRPG turn-based kind of affair, but done quite well and working in the lore of One Piece. So it's pretty good.
Interesting. Is this game due out? It's this month, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I can't remember the day, but I think it might be out this week.
So is it tantalised you enough to think about purchasing it, do we think? Or
no, not as a full price game with how stacked the start of the year is. But if like mid-year or something, that there's a bit of a lull and it's on sale or something, I might consider it. Or again, if it was Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, then it would probably,
Okay then. So
I did enjoy my time with it.
Whilst you find out the release date and how much it's going to cost, I'll throw it over to Rob to ask, are you a One Piece fan, or is this just one of them things Richie's into and we never knew about it?
No, this is definitely a Richie thing. When it comes to anime, the only one I actually enjoy is One Punch Man, and that's the only one
I've never watched it.
See, that I only like that because it's like a satire of all of her animes. So yeah, One Piece is just too massive of a world now, and
I wouldn't recommend anyone try getting a One Piece because it is just too big.
Is it coming
Yeah,
to
it
an end?
literally take you years to catch up.
Are they wrapping up finally now? I feel like I've heard or read things about them starting to come to a conclusion.
Into the last saga.
Right.
So yes,
I said saga, not series. Saga.
Yeah. So yes, they technically are wrapping up, but
sequel,
I
spin-off,
expect
prequel.
5 years or something. Like it's not going to be a quick.
Wow.
Like a 5-year wrap-up period.
Is it ironic that?
The reason I'm
One
using the word
Piece?
saga is because it is massive. So the saga is built out of many story arcs. Each story arc might take up to over a year. Like,
This just sounds stressful.
oh yeah.
Chris.
If I wasn't caught up, I wouldn't even attempt it.
It's
But
like
it comes out the 12th January. It's out now actually,
oh, fantastic.
and it's on Steam at least. It's $49.99.
It's like Pokemon. It took Ash 25 years to win the damn title. So it's like, is it any surprise that anime takes so long?
The difference with this though is there's no reboot. It is a continuous story.
What do you mean? Ash has been the same perpetually 10-year-old child for 25
He gets
years.
rebooted every 3 years.
Yeah, he also looks different and starts his whole story again, but we digress. Rob, what have you been playing this week?
I have successfully completed the Soviet campaigns on Red Alert 2 on the special brutal difficulty, which I had to download from a mod.
Wow.
So I'm feeling pretty good about myself, not going to lie.
You're moving on to Yuri's Revenge next?
Oh no, like that was included. So
Oh, it was
like,
part of it,
base
right.
game and expansion. Yeah,
Good.
like I'm balling, and like Yuri's Revenge. I didn't realize this as a kid when I played it like casually because I always played the Allies because they're the good guys. So like didn't sully myself with the Soviets. But now if I'm back, I've realized how imbalanced that game is, or like not imbalanced, but how boring the Soviets are to play. Because it's just like they don't have any of
Even
the
the
cool
developers
units.
don't want to play the Soviets.
Or like the cool tech, and it's just like, oh, I'm just going to build a load of like apocalypse tanks and airships,
Kirovs.
and then and that's it, and just spam them.
Yeah, when you heard that Kirov reporting, like sound go off over your comms, was like, oh shit, I need to build like 20 anti-flak cannons now or something, because they just mess you up. It's a damn air balloon. It should have been the easiest thing to take down in theory.
Yeah, in theory, yeah.
But no, I think those things are destructible, and especially when you used to have one. But it would be masked because there'd be 3 of them travelling together, and the way the isometric view worked is they'd be laid on top of each other. So they'd come into your base, and you'd finally blown up, and you'd be like, yes, I'm safe. And there was actually another 2 literally stacked isometrically behind the other one. Oh, what a time. But yeah, Yuri's psychic tank. Like, taking over a tank with psychic powers. Like, you can only get that in video games.
Yeah.
So good.
Tank's
so
driven by
taking over
someone.
like
You're not
actual
taking over the
buildings.
tank, you're taking over the driver.
Yeah, but it's just the way it looks and the way it works. It's funny because you can't take over the drone tanks, can you? Because they're sentient, I guess.
Yeah.
The little the Russian, what do the Soviets
Controlled
have?
remotely.
The
Drones.
spider tanks, the little spider
Terror
drone
drones.
things. Terror drones, that's the one. Yeah. Great game. Anything else? Have you just been ploughing your life into Red Alert?
No, I've just been doing that really. I think that those campaigns have conditioned me that like it's like a really weird like time in gaming where it was just like exclusively for males, and like anybody of the opposite gender didn't get a look in. So like every single game like that, it's like your kind of like commander or whatever.
Yeah.
Like your comms guy like instantly falls in love with you as soon as you do well in the game, and it's like this just doesn't translate well now.
Yeah,
It is funny.
a bit dated.
Yeah, I mean, you just need to look at the stereotype of Tanya in the game to be like, all right, yeah, okay. That's where we're going with that. But all I've been playing this week, I've been dabbling a little bit in The Witcher. Not that much. I killed the first member of the Wild Hunt or something. When you go off and you find I forgot what the blonde woman's called.
Siri.
No, I know that one. It's the one you meet. Is it Kira or Sarah or something like that? She's like the first one you meet, and she's in a bathtub, of course. And then she's like, "Oh, come and help me look for mushrooms in a cave or something." I got lost in the cave, and then you find a Wild Hunt guy, and you go through some poles. All that jazz. Either way, I've not been doing too much. I finished The Last of Us Part 2 with the wife as well, so that's finished now. Thoroughly enjoyed that story all the way through. And, of course, my playthrough on the channel. But I just need to get more time into The Witcher. I have bought the book, though, the first book, which is someone who's never read The Witcher books before. Incredibly hard to find the starting point, because when you Google Witcher series. There's like an 8-book series, but then apparently there's 2 short story collection books, which are technically the first time you see Geralt and other characters, and they're like a compilation. But then there's books which are like tied in with a Netflix series called The Last Wish, which seems like the first book, but then when you look at the official list, it's called Blood of Elves. So now I'm just kind of like, you know, when you end up passing from pillar to post.
You
thinking,
look for publisher days.
I'm just looking, for where I start. But I've got some. I bought the first 2, thinking if I enjoy the first one, I'll have the second one ready there to pick up. And they don't seem that long, actually. Looking at like the font size and the amount of pages, they don't seem too. It's not quite the Silmarillion I'm cracking open. So
it's quite refreshing for a fantasy series where it's like, oh, this isn't going to like consume my entire like year in reading.
Yeah.
So.
Cool, I'm looking forward to it. But I thought I'm playing the game, I'll do that, and there's nothing really on my slate until Jedi Survivor now, so I've got, 2 months? Just short of 2 months, so looking forward to it, and we'll get back to that, of course, and whatever we play with you wonderful folks out there every Thursday right here on the channel. We're thinking of Back 4 Blood this week, potentially, so join us, let us know what you want to play. And, of course, this past Saturday, we did our last ever stream of Google Stadia. We did the Stadia Disconnect. Nice little play on words there, to basically say goodbye. At the time of listening, you have until tomorrow to go enjoy what's left of that cloud gaming platform. But we are going to talk about cloud gaming and hopefully PlayStation picking up the mantle. So without further delay, let's get into it. Rob, if you could do us the honours of introducing us to the
properly prepared PlayStation perusing points, aka
the news.
The news.
Your delay caught us both out there, I think, this week.
Yeah, I told you I was going to do it.
Because you see, I go with an animation overlay at the same time I'm expecting you to say it. So as soon as it pops up, I'm saying it regardless of you saying it. So there you go. Joke's on you.
Ruined my game, so thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Big news week this week, as I mentioned, starting things off with first story. It's the middle of the month, therefore we have to have some more games added to the PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium tier, and we have that very list. The first game in the list is Back 4 Blood, reading from the PlayStation blog. Today we are happy to reveal PlayStation Plus game catalogue for January 2023. Let's dive in. Back 4 Blood, join the war against the Ridden in a thrilling co-op first-person shooter from the creators of Left 4 Dead. With humanity's extinction on the line, it's up to you and your friends to take the fight to the enemy, eradicate the Ridden, and claim the world. Fight your way through a dynamic, perilous world in a 4-player co-op story campaign where you must work together to survivingly increase challenging missions. Back 4 Blood, I think we've all played Left 4 Dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is the spiritual successor. It's essentially the exact same game from what they've shown. Obviously not the same game, but it's what you would expect it to be in a modern day sense. Either of you played this yet?
No. It was one of them games. It was one of them games that seemed to have a lot of hype around it when it was like on the run up to launch, and then just seemed to just drop off people's radar. So I don't know how well it's actually done or how well it's been received, but I'm looking forward to jumping in.
Yeah, I don't think it was one of those. I think it's one of those games that everyone thinks they want, and then when it comes out, they go, it doesn't like just. Okay.
It's one of them. I really loved Left 4 Dead. You jump in and go, oh, that was more of a time and place thing.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to when everyone was clamoring for Mirror's Edge, and they were going, "Oh, Mirror's Edge was one of the best games EA ever put out. Like, we want another one, and then they did the kind of remake reboot, and then nobody bought it, and it was like, see, this is why we didn't want to make it, but because of fan demand and the vocal minority, it happened. And
in that Mirror's Edge case, was that not just a vocal minority like shouting for it, and then it probably sold about as well as it was going to sell? But a lot of people, because Mirror's Edge is a weird game. I enjoyed Mirror's Edge, but it's like
I loved it, yeah. But I think certain games have like their time, the timing of them is important as well. So like with Mirror's Edge, it really kind of elevated kind of the free running kind of thing that you do in that game, which other games have now got to a point where they do that very well. And I think it's the same with like Left 4 Dead. Left 4 Dead was kind of a game that introduced this concept of like the 4-player survival game, and then other games have come along and done it as well. So I think they're trying to recreate like the Left 4 Dead hype, but it's just a different time completely. So I think that's why it's not getting the pickup, I guess.
Yeah, it's that kind of like co-op. Like I remember Left 4 Dead was the thing was you're all sat on the couch together, going after crazy monsters and having like a good laugh with these characters. And I think because it's now split to, most likely this will be played online, so you're not in the room together, and it loses that kind of that fun co-op dynamic that they're obviously going for. I don't think the game reviewed that badly. If I recall, it went straight into Game Pass last year. So it had like a user-based boon, but then, yeah, like you said, what actually keeps you around. But it looks good. I'm excited to play it, and like we said, we'll probably check it out this Thursday. So do join us if you want to jump in on the co-op campaign that we've got going on there.
It seems I've just been reading some of the comments on Metacritic from the user scores, and it seems to be like the bots were pretty terrible on launch. I don't know if it's improved, but a lot of people are giving like terrible like user score, like saying either play with friends or don't play at all. A lot of people saying it's a cheap imitation of Left 4 Dead, that kind of stuff.
Right.
I was trying to figure out when I saw like the user score, was this review bombed or is there actual criticism in there? And it seems to be probably there's quite a few common threads. Probably other people being massively melodramatic, giving it ones and zeros. But yeah,
doesn't have were the lickers in Left 4 Dead, the ones that used to hang up on the wall and like get you with the tongue. Yeah. You like get wrapped up by.
I don't know if they were called lickers, but I know what you mean.
Lickers. Is lickers Resident Evil?
Yeah, that's Resident Evil.
Yeah, are they the ones with the long tongue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That might be why. The liquor impersonators then. But if you're not into Left 4 Dead, that's probably the biggest tentpole game. There is a few more though. We've got Dragon Ball Fighter Z, Fighters, however you want to say that, for PS4. Endless spectacular fights with iconic and all-powerful fighters await this action game from Arc System Works, capturing the authentic anime style of the series and combining it with an easy-to-learn but difficult-to-master gameplay. The game has multiple modes to keep franchise and genre fans happy. Build your dream team, sharpen your skills to master high-speed tag combinations in matches, and take on all corners of the ranked world. Either one of you Dragon Ball Z fans? Richie, I'll defer to you as the ultimate anime guy. But
I am, but I have no interest in. I'm not a fighting game fan, and this is a fighting game.
Do you love Smash Bros?
Yeah, but that's more of an exception rather than the rule.
Okay,
to be honest,
that's fair. Yeah, same for me. I cannot master fighting games in the slightest, so I just ignore anything to do with Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Dragon Ball Fighter, anything. But
the Dragon Ball Z fighting games have always, I think, they've largely been well received, and this one I think was no exception. So
absolutely.
If you're interested in Dragon Ball Z, interested in fighting games, this is like the Venn diagram for you.
Do you fit in that Venn diagram, Rob?
I do not. I kind of like my fighting games, but the Dragon Ball Z is just like, it's lost on me completely. It just seems like there's like a never-ending cycle of like, the bad guy powers up in level, so then the good guy powers up in level, and then he trains really hard, and then it just keeps going like that.
That is a 100% fair criticism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I remember watching the cartoon.
It did end, and then they brought it back as well.
I remember seeing bits of the cartoon, like in between probably watching Pokemon and Recess and everything else. Every time you turn the channel it was on, it just seemed like some guy in an orange jumpsuit getting angry at another guy, but they were both floating in the sky, and then one of them had set on fire, and then they'd fight, and then they just didn't, like, that's all they ever see. No matter what time I'd flick through it, that's what was happening.
Again, that's kind of fair, because at the time of the anime came out, the manga was still getting worked on weekly, so they do things to pad out the runtime, so expanding like action scenes as long as they absolutely possibly can get away with is kind of like one of them tricks of the trade. Because bear in mind, manga's coming out every single week, and if you try and bring out an episode of a TV show every single week, which usually covers like maybe 2 to 3 chapters typically, you're going to catch up. So there is a lot of padding. That's they rebooted it actually with Dragon Ball Kai, which like did the Dragon Ball Z thing but cut down everything so it's a bit more true to the manga.
Right. There was also a little
shaved
bald
off
guy
like 100 episodes.
around. Is that the same one?
Yeah.
Also probably in an orange jumpsuit or either way.
Yes.
There's Dragon Ball Z fans out there going, damn you all.
Yeah, some people are fucking seething right now, aren't they?
Yeah. But moving on, we've also got Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition for PlayStation 5. In the Devil May Cry 5 edition, blistering speed meets impeccable control for an incredibly tight gameplay experience as you work your way through the thrilling story. The optimized version of the original release represents the pinnacle of stylish action. Several years after the Order of the Sword incident, a new demonic threat has invaded our world. It's up to the legendary devil hunters Dante and Nero to stop it, with the newcomer V joining forces with them. Devil May Cry, gents, throw it over to you.
I haven't played Devil May Cry since the third one. This might be a game I just dip in and see if it catches my interest, but things looking a bit stacked at the moment in my kind of backlog.
Yeah,
So,
Devil May Cry, I haven't touched since like PS2 days, and even then I didn't really know what I was doing. I think it was just run around and hack at things, and I didn't really get who was or what was going on because I was just a daft kid. But it seems to, again, Devil May Cry has like just this cult following where I don't think they ever sell gangbuster numbers, but they have a very dedicated core audience who just absolutely adore the gameplay and the fun that you have in there.
It seems like when it comes to action games, on one side of the spectrum, we've got the very, very slow, methodical, strategic things like the Dark Souls games, where it's like, okay, it is an action game, but you are observing your enemy, you're maneuvering yourself correctly, you're waiting for the right moment to strike. Devil May Cry is on the absolute polar opposite side of it, where it's just chaos. And I kind of like the stuff in the middle. It's just a bit too far. When I have tried Devil May Cry games, it just seems a bit over the top in every single way, and I'm just like, no, calm down a bit.
I mean, just looking at the concept art for the cover art, it's got like a giant panther. There's an alien kind of creature. It looks like it's on some kind of bouncy ball made of brain matter. The guy has a cyborg arm. They have swords that are way too big for them and guns at the same time. So just goes to show you what's they all look the same. All these protagonists look the same. They must be brothers or related. But moving on, we've got some games that are definitely up our street, Richie. We've talked about these many times on the channel before. We have Life is Strange Before the Storm and the original Life is Strange coming as PS4 variants available now. We've got a playthrough up on the channel of Life is the full playthrough of True Colours, if I recall, and we've also got a look at the remastered version of Life is Strange, which I just want to point out, I don't think this is the remastered version. So Life is Strange, it says in the blog, the award-winning, critically acclaimed episodic adventure allows the player to rewind time and affect the past, present, and the future. Follow the story of Max Caulfield, a photography student who discovers she can rewind time to save her best friend, Chloe Price. The pair soon find themselves investigating a mysterious disappearance of fellow student Rachel Lambert, uncovering a dark side to life in Arcadia Bay. In the blog post, it just reads as normal. Of course, these games were remastered start of last year.
Yeah, but I remember when they were remastered, they were quite buggy. I think we had a few bugs in our play of like the remaster of Life is Strange 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember on the run up to the remasters, like I'd actually, before True Colours, I'd replayed through the whole Life is Strange series, and it's like, I don't really feel like these need a remaster. It definitely helps, but they're okay.
Yeah, they're quite artistic, aren't they?
The art style is kind of stylized. It kind of has a bit of a watercolour aesthetic going to it. It is a bit stylized, so it's just, it's like things like improved frame rates and stuff can be nice, but it's not that sort of game where it's actually going to be game changing, really. It is. These are sort of games where at 30 frames per second you're going to be absolutely fine, like, because it's just doesn't. It's not like a high action game, is it? So it's like
it's like a Telltale game with a bit more to it.
So I wish, to be honest, I wish these were the remasters. It seems weird that they're not, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, from all sides, even from like a business standpoint, you'd like to think, Rob, that they would put out the best version of the game if it's going onto a subscription library kind of setup, because otherwise surely
not to, right?
Yeah, surely you're only just diminishing your own game's appeal by putting the lesser version out.
Yeah,
because if no one's it's not like they're buying it.
Right? Yeah.
We got the remasters on Stadia Pro as well, so it's not like they're not willing to put the game on the subscription service.
Yeah, exactly. It just seems odd that someone will jump into your game, and if you want them to kind of maybe buy the sequel or the follow-up, you want them to experience the best version of your game possible, right? To then encourage them to play more. Because if they play the original, go, it looks a bit dated and old, that might dissuade them from True Colours, which is completely different, but either way.
I mean, my recommendation kind of would be, if you're waiting to play Life is Strange, now you have these on PS4, PS5, and you don't have the remasters, I'd just jump into these. You're going to have a good time.
Yeah, they are fun games, fun titles. Speaking of another fun one, we've got Jet the Far Shore, take an interstellar ship to carve out the future for people haunted by the Oblivion in a cinematic adventure. Scout may be the first to deploy to a mythic ocean planet, take the helm of Jet, that's the ship, and explore a vast unknown, skim low over waves, raw and pristine coastlines, and carve your way through otherworldly woods. So this one's, if you guys have seen this, it's basically just, I can't think how you'd even describe the game. You're basically just a ship floating through the air, avoiding obstacles. It reminds me of, what was that old arcade game years ago, like an Atari game, but think stripped down everything to just a triangle, avoiding other triangles coming towards it.
I know
through
what
like
you
a
mean.
canyon. It's got a name, but Jet the Far Shore is essentially that in the 21st century. The other kind of final big one before we wrap up this list of games is Just Cause 4 Reloaded, PS4 version only. Jump into the action-packed open-world sandbox experience and cause chaos with a wide selection of weaponry, vehicles, and gear. Just Cause 4 Reloaded delivers an expansive and explosive gameplay experience and an all-new package that includes all premium content, as well as previously released improvements and add-ons to the game. Strap in your wingsuit, equip your fully customizable grapple hook, and get ready to bring the thunder. Rob, I'll throw this over on you. This sounds like your type of game, just utter chaos.
So, I love the Just Cause series. I think I've played it since the first one, and then like put like a obnoxious amount of hours into number 3 as well. Number 4 is good if you just want. It's basically like number 3 part 2. It's not really kind of fair to say it's a full on new game, I'd say. But yeah, if it's included in like the PlayStation Plus, it's not a bad like way to spend some time. It received a couple of mixed reviews, but I enjoyed it for what it was because I just like the series.
Yeah, Just Cause is one of those series that seems to be it's definitely takes inspiration from Grand Theft Auto, and just it's chaos like embodied into a video game. There is a story, but it's very like tongue-in-cheek 80s action. Like it knows what it is and it
That's
embraces
what I was
it.
gonna liken it to. It's your kind of popcorn, over-the-top action film, but made into a video game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It sits in that kind of bracket for me where like Saints Row and Far Cry are, where they try and be more serious, but they're not really, and they know they're not, so they're just like, go kill this, take this outpost, blow this up. This is the one where you can attach jetpacks to cows, right, and launch them into space.
Yeah, so you have your little like rocket boosters, so you can do all sorts of quite messed up stuff, which consumes a lot of time.
All part of the fun, right? All part of the fun. But yeah, another big game. Just Cause 5 we'll probably see, and it'll be, again, it's a double A game for me, where they're fun, but they're never going to be winning any Game of the Year awards.
Exactly,
Or
yeah.
I'd say
awards.
I'd say the AAA games, but like kind of the lower tier of AAA. Like,
It's a double A.
no, because the AA I think has a connotation of like a certain like level of quality as well, like not as good. Where this is more of, it's got, you'd expect the same level of polish you'd expect from a AAA game, but isn't revolutionising the industry, is not driving anything forward. It's just, it's an action film with that you're playing through. That's
Like I fully expect there'll be a Just Cause 8, and it'll just go down like the Dynasty Warriors type of minor iteration route.
I think that's all they can do at this point, I think. But we'll still play it either way. A few final games. We've got Omno on PS4 and Erica on PS4. Omno is a single-player adventure, little indie game, discovered through an ancient world of wonders. It's a little puzzle side-scroller thing. Erica was one of those games where a lot of it's live action. I think it came out surprisingly cheap a few years ago on PlayStation. It follows the traumatic events of a childhood dragged back in the light through grisly new clues as you unearth the shocking truth. Again, loads of cutscenes. If you're into those live action video games, it's up there. But more importantly, we've got some PlayStation classics finally hitting premium after all the promise of what premium will bring. We've got Siphon Filter 3, Hot Shots Golf 2, and Star Wars Demolition. Siphon Filter 3 hopefully will come with trophies, but the only one for me stand out is Star Wars Demolition. I had that game
I
back
can't
in
remember
the day.
this game ever existing.
It's basically just like a combat
Is it
arena
Twisted
thing.
Metal?
Yeah, you get the 10. So in the blog it says 10 iconic Star Wars vehicles battle out across 8 intense areas, with 4 game modes. Blast your way to victory with your arsenal, including laser cannons, proton torpedoes, and concussion missiles. It essentially is you start off in an arena in a vehicle of some sort, and you just go for each other. That's about it.
Okay.
It's one of the lesser known Star Wars games. It's where you took a Star Wars IP and just attached it to any other game that was out there. This is what it came up with.
Yeah, like
demolish or be demolished.
For classics library, they're not the strongest titles, are they? Really?
No, I think we've realised that PlayStation just kind of half-arsing it with this classics library.
It's weird because premium is probably the tier they want people on, but it's also the tier that seem to spend the least amount of time thinking about how to use it and doing things that actually draw people into it.
It really is. They don't really have a grasp on these tiers yet.
You'd think with you'd want people who aren't on the premium tier be looking at it and going, oh, should I upgrade? Where realistically, is anyone doing that? Is anyone looking at the premium tier who doesn't already have it going, oh, I could do with a bit of that? I don't think
I want to play Siphon Filter 3.
Yeah.
As much as I love Siphon Filter, it's not like a needle mover for me, I don't think.
Well, that's the thing, and especially as we head into kind of this spring-summer when people are going to be renewing their 1 year, you've got to imagine PlayStation are going to have to want and make some big moves. Did you buy some in a sale?
No, I didn't buy anything. It auto-renewed. It caught me off guard. I was like, oh, right, well, I've got premium for another year now.
Ah.
Yeah.
How did that catch you off guard? Because premium didn't launch until the summer.
I don't know. I paid. It came out my account. I noticed when I got a notification from my credit card, like, oh, well, I have just paid for PlayStation Plus.
That's you committing. Well, hopefully, Richie, one of the reasons I was saying they'll want to start convincing people to resubscribe to premium by doing something different. And they're aware of it. I think the audience is aware of it. And everyone who isn't auto-subscribing like Richie will certainly be conscious of renewal when that day comes around. But it does appear that PlayStation might be making some moves to do that. According to... pardon me. I knew that was coming. As I was talking, I could feel my cough, trying to fight it off. PlayStation 5 version 7.0 software will reportedly include Discord and cloud game streaming for PS5 games. Insider Gaming sources have been provided with information on what to expect in the update this coming March. In addition to Discord server integration, sources have revealed PS5 games will also be streamable on the PlayStation 5 via cloud streaming. It is said that the feature will be included in the PlayStation Premium tier, and it will be under the project name Kronos, and it's been in development testing for a number of months, sources have revealed. So I'll throw it over to you, Richie, as you are the premium subscriber now for the next year. And also, of course, you've covered cloud gaming on this channel for about 3+ years now. We've been crying out for this for some time, haven't we? What do you want it to look like, and do you think it's true?
I think, first of all, we need to acknowledge that we actually criticised PlayStation with the revamp of PlayStation Plus for not including PS5 games in the cloud offering. It kind of left them a bit short compared to Game Pass, where everything is coming day to day and to the cloud. What I basically just want is the ability to play PlayStation 5 games in the cloud. Now, I think they should also include that into the PS4 as well. Not just the PS5, once it got up and running, but if you start with PS5, because it's one of them situations where, with the advantage, I think it has a stronger advantage on PS4 than PS5, this sort of tech, because that means you can use your PS4 console to play PS5 games, where if you have a PS5, you could just buy the game. But they have also said, I think it's coming to Sony phones as well, which that could be more of the features that's actually going to work well for people.
Yeah, and this is where we've been kind of spoilt looking at the competition. Of course, we started off with using Google Stadia. We've heard good things about Amazon Luna, and their general directive is you can just play on any device you've got. As long as it has a screen, you can boot it up, you can use a browser, and you'll be able to play the games. And Xbox has kind of followed suit a little bit with that. You've got the Xbox Game Pass app that boots the game up. You can play through cloud through a PC app or a browser, and they're iterating on it constantly. And when we look over at Sony, and they did their reshuffle last summer, it does seem like it's just very lackluster. And I know, Rob, you've only just got your console. You tried the browser version of it, and the difference is stark in terms of just quality and so accessibility.
Bad. Yeah, so for me, the one benefit that I have now is that if I want to check out a game from the PlayStation Plus library, I don't have to endure a 60 gig download to actually do it. So there's definitely a benefit when it comes to that. But my biggest thing is the streaming of PlayStation 4 titles, do kind of like browser and stuff isn't particularly great at the moment. So like, what's it going to be like when they're putting this new version out? I hope they're going to level up the entire kind of service, because really for me, like, I played it for a month when it first came out on browser, and then I just abandoned it because I was playing Ghost of Tsushima, and I was like, I'm sure this game's not supposed to look or feel like this. And then luckily I've revisited the game kind of in the past couple of weeks, and the comparison is just not fair to make between the two platforms.
Yeah, you're never going to expect it to be one for one compared to, like, it's always going to be a bit behind playing on through cloud gaming compared to playing locally.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of the tech, and I don't think that will ever... It'll get closer. Cloud gaming can get closer and closer and closer to local, but it'll never quite get there.
Yeah, and that's
but
fine.
For me, with them starting with PS5 and Xperia phones, I'm hoping that is okay, this is where we're starting. As I said, they need to launch... I think they need to bring this to PS4 as well, because a lot of people will still have PS4s and use it as a secondary console in a different room. But if then you could use that to stream PS5 games, great. I think as well they can't keep this locked on Xperia phones. It needs to go eventually to all Android and iPhones as well. Absolutely. But if you have to remember, on the launch, Google Stadia was pixel only initially. So I don't think we can be too critical there, as long as this is the starting point. And the PC stuff needs to be fully like overhauled, because what the offering was, quite frankly, garbage.
Yeah.
Not just in terms of the quality, the UI of PlayStation Plus. The app on PC is terrible. It needs to be that seamless Sony experience across all areas.
Yeah, they've never been the greatest when it comes to this, but yeah, you're completely right. Starting on Xperia phones, I get why they would do that. It counts for like 1% of the global mobile market, so you're talking a very small pool.
They have more control over it, over the ecosystem, so it's easier for them to experiment and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It does run they do run on Android, so you're not too far from kind of rolling it out to extra devices, as we saw with Google Stadia. But I think just having that kind of parity with your competition in terms of Microsoft, and Xbox Ones have cloud gaming on them, and it works just like it does on the Series S. And again, it's giving that older generation a new life almost. But in terms of, I think, what we want to see from this, I think you hit the nail on the head with it. A complete refresh, fully embracing it. But just the fact that you can play PS5 games, I think, is a given. It's crazy that every time we kind of stream a game on a Thursday, if it's on Microsoft, chances are day one, it's there streamable. And for a PlayStation 1, it's not an option. There's no time frame for when there will be an option. You need to buy it and play it on native hardware, which I think just limits their reach of people who are wanting to try out cloud gaming, because all the new games aren't on it. So then who's going to go and want to try out an older game? I think when I tested PlayStation Now, back like 3-4 years ago when I got a trial for it, I checked out like Star Wars Unleashed, and it ran like shit, and the interface was a PS3 dashboard, and I thought, nope, not for me, and I never touched it again. So that was their interface, and the quality let them down, and it put me off. And we know from the last 3 years of experience in cloud gaming, it can be almost on par. Obviously not native, but it can get very, very close where you don't realise it. And I want to play my PS5 games on my phone, like FIFA. I want to play it on the move, and I want to not download shit all over again.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see PlayStation first-party titles coming day in, day to PlayStation Plus into cloud. But what I hope you get is, say, if you've bought God of War Ragnarok, you own the game, you can now play it in the cloud. I think that might be the way they go. And if they get that for the entire PS5 and PS4 and PS3 and PS2 and PS1 library, so if you already own the game, either you've purchased it or you got through PlayStation Plus, you can now just play that game in the cloud. Maybe they have restrictions on, so like you can only, I don't like this, but if you can only have one copy active at a time, so you can't have loads of people accessing the same game through one account. There'd probably be stuff like that, but I think that would be the ideal situation for PlayStation, because again, when you're not getting like the next big Sony first party title day and date to PlayStation Plus, they're just not going to do that. They make too much money selling you it. So
yeah, well that's it. A couple of points that came out from this as well. From again, it's all just reports at the moment, but some reliable sources. They've also said that it's going to come with custom blades, server blades for the PS5, which I think we know if they're going to stream PS5 games, they need to up the hardware behind the scenes. And one of the things, interesting enough, it's going to be running on AWS, which is Amazon's cloud network. So that's a bit of a... As people who've covered, obviously, the Google side of things for quite some time, Amazon have got their own Luna set up, still only in the United States, restricted there, but that's an interesting tidbit. And then one of the extra features to come out of it was Haven, the studio that was started with Jade Raymond over at Google Stadia. She was then started off a new studio, Haven, that was then very, very quickly acquired by PlayStation. They're rumoured to already have a demo up and running in the cloud, which, no surprise there for me.
I'm surprised that she's come up from Amazon Web Services. It seems like a smart move, and I'm guessing they've talked to Google as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like you imagine, and maybe Amazon just seemed to be the smarter move. The downside of Amazon Web Services is Amazon haven't launched Luna outside the US yet. So do they have the infrastructure globally to run cloud games, or is this just going to be a launch to the US thing, and sometime down the line it goes elsewhere? Because this needs to be global. Like
AWS as a service, like people underestimate how big that actually is in terms of like Amazon's as a whole. I think it's like a quarter of revenue for Amazon or something.
Yeah, it is, but there's having the server infrastructure specifically for designed to run games is different requirements.
Be worried about that.
Oh, I know. I absolutely 100%. They have the ability to get this set up, but then in the back of my mind is, then why isn't Luna outside the US? Is it just have they just not done it yet?
I think it's just the will, I guess.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, maybe this actually could potentially lead to Luna getting out of the US. Because if PlayStation going, well, we'll use your services, but we need to have servers in Europe, in the UK, we need to have them in the Asian market, or in Asia, in India, and all over the world, Amazon will go like, well, okay, we'll get it set up. Oh, now we have the infrastructure, let's get Luna there.
Maybe it's just like a drive-in for Luna.
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah, like...
let's get paid to test this with PlayStation, and then...
Yeah.
Just replicate, I guess.
Yeah,
Sony will be putting down the money, so it's like, okay.
Absolutely, there's loads of stuff to come out of this. You can go read the articles, check them out, but there's loads of just internal documents that are coming out as well, where PlayStation have essentially a whole cloud division now dedicated to this. They talk about the PlayStation Now subscribers since the PS Now refresh, going from 1.8 million subscribers to 3.2. So it's infinitely increasing. Talking about testing PS5 games running over 5G, which we know 5G infrastructures are always going to get better as well. And essentially just deep diving into new growth vectors for their entire company. They look at beyond console approach, which I know, Richie, you said time and time again about Microsoft looking to get rid of consoles eventually. Immersion, which is their VR cloud strategy, their first-party expansion, the TV deals, the movie deals. So it just seemed like there's a big shake-up going on behind the scenes where Sony are looking to embrace kind of all mediums of entertainment. And it's nice to see that cloud is finally part of that, because we've been hammering that drum for like 3 odd years now, saying, how can Google and Amazon do it so well, and yet they've never done it before, and Microsoft are doing their thing, but PlayStation and Nintendo seemingly just ignore it, like it's not a thing. And hopefully, albeit Stadia is now closed down, PlayStation might be able to jump in and take its place. Moving on though, one of the things we're also going to have to keep an eye on for the next couple of years is seemingly Ubisoft, because we do not know what is going on over there. Reports from Ubisoft this week, Skull and Bones has been delayed again. The Pirate Adventure has been delayed for the 6th time and is now due out sometime in financial year 2023 to 2024. So that takes us potentially right up until March 31st next year now. Also going on behind the scenes, there was stuff released announced on about the Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope sequel not selling that well, Just Dance underperforming, restructures, and their capital absolutely plummeted on the stock market. Basically, Ubisoft seemingly is a ship that's got a lot of holes in it right now, and yeah. I just don't know what they're doing.
There's one thing that I heard on a different podcast I mentioned. I couldn't find an article or something, but apparently Yves Guillemot were kind of like sent an open letter to the developers at Ubisoft and saying, you guys need to pull your fingers out and get on top of this sort of stuff. And I'm like, and you sat there like, this is clearly an upper management problem that is trickling down to throughout the entire company in terms of what the vision is, what sort of games they're going to make, and it's clearly like if there's a problem at one studio, you maybe go, okay, there's a problem with that things happening in that studio. This is a problem across Ubisoft as a whole, and then you kind of have to put that on upper management to go, what are you doing? Why aren't you getting this sorted? Because this is not new. This problem, we've been watching the slow decline of Ubisoft for years now, and Skull and Bones just feels like one of them things where they probably should just cancel it.
Can you cancel it now at this point?
I don't think they can. They're 10 years in to development, and this is the sixth time it's been delayed.
Yeah.
It was announced 6 years ago. They need to release this game or kill it, and neither's going to go well. They must just be looking at this and go, it's almost like, just from a business point of view, it's almost one of them like, just get it out, it's going to tank, but we'll get some money back, and then we can just move on from this mess.
So yeah, I'm seeing lots of chatter about... I think like the most sensible thing they could do, because this game's dead on arrival, I can't see it doing anything. There's lots of chatter about just kind of stripping it back, rebranding it, and then it being kind of Assassin's Creed, Black Flag, Infinity, like that part of that. And it's like, as insane as that sounds, it's probably the most sensible thing to do, because
it's such a weird one. Remember, this is a £70, $70 game as well. This isn't a free-to-play. This isn't... Obviously, it'll be on Ubisoft Plus, but the team did come out after yesterday's announcement and made a statement saying, we're determined and focused. Our focus remains the same. We want to offer the best experience possible from day one in providing further polish and balancing to our game experience. Following your feedback from previous tests, we remain committed to... fantastic launch. But this was supposed to come out the same day as God of War Ragnarok last year, remember? That was its last launch date. Got delayed until early this year. Now that's gone. I don't know.
I just can't understand how it's like, it's essentially like it was a reskin of like a 360 era game. Like I just don't understand how
it's conceptually just a bad game. So they're trying to find a way to get people interested, and play testers are just going, no, we're not into it. Like, I think it's a game that should have probably come out 5 years ago. And Absolutely. If it came out 5 years ago, it might have been interesting. But like,
I just feel like
it's time we've had Sea of Thieves announced. That's come out. It's done well. It's found its following, and so now you're looking at Skull and Bones has to be better than Sea of Thieves. Otherwise, it's dead on arrival. It has to put that's the crowd you want. You want to get the Sea of Thieves crowds over there, but Sea of Thieves it's a Game Pass game, so we have played it on the channel, and it's got a solid following, and is the space for two. And I don't know. I think there's a big problems with Ubisoft, and for me, it comes down to the fact that they found this whole Ubisoft style open world towers to unveil the map game in like the PS3 era, and haven't really changed. And I think people have moved on from that. But now they react to the trends. They're not setting anything.
Well, we saw that with Hyperscape, didn't we? So Battle Royale's popular, let's make one. And then it lasted all of 5 months, then they pulled the plug on that.
Because their market was already saturated by the time they got into it, and then their game wasn't as good. It just felt off a production. I always refer to Ubisoft games as feeling like the off a production line. They don't kind of have that kind of magic, that creativity behind them. They always fall for me about between like 7 to 8 out of 10, and never. And it's not like they're trying to hit 9s and 10s and falling short. It feels like that's what they've been content to produce.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not sustainable in the long term. It's a creative industry after all. People want the nice new shiny thing. There's something that's different to what they've done before that gets them excited. Like, you can't survive just on and bring out more and more Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah, they might just become an Assassin's Creed company. Of course, Ubisoft do hire over just short of 20,000 people as well, so you're talking double the size of EA. And yet, seemingly, they can't put out any games. They've just also announced as part of this week's statement, 3 unannounced games have also been cancelled and canned. So behind the scenes, they're shuttering other projects. We know they shuttered 4 earlier this year, if I recall rightly. Again, unannounced, so that means things like Beyond Good and Evil, seemingly okay. All the Assassin's Creed titles, all the Tom Clancy things they've announced are still fine, but like it's just an absolute shit show, isn't it? And it's crazy to think of a company this size with so many studios and so many staff. They've not really put out any games either. Like we had Far Cry 6, not last year, the year before, and then what?
They might have to just be brutal for a little while and go, you know what we're going to do? We're actually going to go through like a serious like element of consolidation. Any unannounced games that we just feel like kind of cookie cutter games, we're just going to can them all, and now we'll commit to the stuff we've got announced. We'll commit to the stuff we know going well, and maybe we have to get rid of some of our studios, really strip back in a position to kind of like stabilize the stock. Your stocks will fall, but if you stabilize it, you can build a new foundation to go again from. It might just be the way it has to be. Or maybe a lot of this could be like in preparation to try and make it enticing to sell. If there isn't as much baggage, like unannounced games getting worked on, it might just be easier to sell to some like an Xbox or a PlayStation.
Yeah, strip the assets.
I think that's going to happen. They haven't got the strength. Like, who tried to take over them in the past? Was it
Vivendi?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like they fought that one off, but like you need a lot of cash to fight off hostile takeovers. I
think that was a hostile takeover, and it was in a different era. That was when Ubisoft were kind of at the height. That was kind of around about Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Origins kind of era. It was like where they kind of had this bit of momentum behind them, and it's just fallen away so quickly since then. This time I don't think it'll be a hostile takeover. I think it will be a planned, we want you to buy us, and I think they need that change of leadership.
Yeah, but things can change. They've already focused on, we know Assassin's Creed Mirage has come up this year, which is apparently back to the Assassin's Creed roots. It's a shorter story, it's a cheaper price. They have Splinter Cell in the works. They've got the Prince of Persia game in the works. So I feel like with video game companies, sometimes all they need is like one or two wins back to back. But Ubisoft definitely need to stop chasing the trends and actually just start like trailblazing themselves once again.
And the three games you just mentioned, two of them are remakes, and one of them is Assassin's Creed. Mm-hmm. Like they need to do some interesting stuff. But I think these three games, assuming Prince of Persia is up to standard from last time we saw it clearly wasn't. I think they'll be good games, but they need to be driving forward rather than just sticking with what has worked in the past. Yeah,
absolutely. They need to do something different at least, because I can tell you X-Defiant isn't going to do shit for them. I'm going to say that right now. I'm going to, just like I said with Gotham Knights, ain't going to do anything. It feels like they're going through the same problems EA had a few years ago, but the difference with EA is they had the income from like FIFA and Madden constantly giving them millions and millions and millions. Ubisoft do not have, like Assassin's Creed made over $1 billion, but it's not monetizable as much as FIFA and Madden and sports titles generally are.
The criticism of EA though was they were trying to over monetize. It was all about microtransactions and stuff. So one of the biggest fixes they did was not do that anymore.
Yeah, and they've seen a little renaissance now. And
and then we'll make some single player first party games. That notably didn't have any DLC in like Jedi Fallen Order. We do a really good job. And suddenly, now people are interested in EA games again. They need to do that kind of resurgence.
Absolutely. Wrapping things up this week with a few smaller stories. The supposed sci-fi PlayStation exclusive RPG that you may have seen leaked over on Reset Era this past week seemingly was made by Outriders Developers. I was going to say Project People Can Fly. I was going to say Project Can Fly then. The Polish company that recently released Outriders back in March 2020. Apparently working on a game called Project Red. And I don't know, did either of you two see the leaked footage at all?
I didn't.
It wasn't that much, to be fair. It looked like Outriders meets Destiny, which kind of in its own right looks like Outriders. Showing off with like big giant floating planet, a guy with a gun running around. But then in the bottom corner, noticed there was the kind of watermarks in red, which was the project that People Can Fly were working on in concept back in 2021. And PlayStation supposedly look like they're partnering with them because PlayStation XDev, the studio that usually works in cohesion with second-party studios to get games onto PlayStation, were also showing up in there. So it looks like the next game from People Can Fly might quite be PlayStation exclusive. Any thoughts?
Nothing strong. Outriders was fun a bit, but kind of just didn't have the staying power, and I hope this is better. And it does sound like Sony are trying to push into getting some more like online games as a service types in play. So it could be fall into that kind of category, like kind of like in your kind of ballpark of a Destiny, although they do own Bungie now, so like.
Yeah, I think it's the same for me. It's difficult to know from the information we have, like, kind of where this fits into my kind of gaming calendar, if you want, compared to like other titles. So, gonna wait to see if there's a bit more information comes out. But kind of certainly interested in from Outriders because
yeah, we enjoyed Outriders, but like it wasn't blown anyone away. I don't think
Outriders was weird. It was kind of. It had all the hallmarks of being a games as a service, but the developers were absolutely adamant that it wasn't one.
And they didn't even get paid by Square Enix.
They didn't. So
which was weird.
Yeah. I hope it does well.
I hope it does as well. And then final one for the week. I want to touch on The Last of Us just before we round up the show, gentlemen. The show critics have been out there. The premiere happened over in Hollywood, in London, and all the other capital cities and whatnot. The PlayStation 3 game finally adapted, 9 years in the making. It goes live technically it's Monday for us in the UK. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. It airs over in the United States, I think, on Sunday night. We're going to watch it. We're going to review it. I want to talk about it on the ClickerCast. And the reason I want to bring it up is because I'm excited for it, because the show, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but the early reviews are outstanding for it. Not to set any kind of like precedents or anything, but reading from some of them for our cov. It's been a problem all episode if you've not noticed on visual things. I've been hiding my coughs between trailers where the audience can't actually see it, but I think actually talking straight for like an hour is surprisingly agitating my chest. No surprise there. Richie, have you got this article up?
Yeah, I've got it.
Would you care to read some of the review snippets for The Last of Us TV show?
Yeah, so I'll start with Grain Gutman from Screen Rant. The Last of Us is a sprawling, emotional epic that captures the game's spirit while expanding on the narrative in surprising and rewarding ways. Stephen Kelly from the BBC said, for fans of the game, it's an adaptation of the utmost skill and reverence, yet one still capable of surprise. Simon Cardy of IGN, it delivers an enriching show for fans of the PlayStation hit while also managing to stay welcomely thrilling to newcomers. I mean, from them three alone, it feels like they've nailed it.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest takeaway that I'm getting from all this is just that people who are in the video game industry who've reviewed it have said the same thing. Like, it's faithful to the game while at the same time telling an epic new kind of version of the story. I think HBO have got another smash hit on their hands, it would seem, and the fact that we get to actually get together and talk about it on Tuesday has me hyped.
Yeah. So I think the success of this show comes down to like kind of two pillars. As one, the gaming industry, which seemingly the gaming industries give it the thumbs up, like, yeah, we're happy with what you've done there. Mm-hmm. We're okay with the changes you made. It's good. And then it's like the non-gamers, like, who are going to probably be the majority of people watching this. Mm-hmm. Like, will it land with them? And if it does, then they've got an absolute masterpiece on their hands.
Yeah, I think this is one that, like, I'm going to tell my mother to watch it. It's just like she enjoyed Game of Thrones. It's that production value. I'm like, you enjoyed those shows. You enjoyed Chernobyl as well. So I'm just like, yeah, you've like The Last of Us. Like, seemingly, it's ticking every box.
I'm looking forward to the conversations at work when non-gamers are going, "Oh, did you see this new show, Last of Us?" It's like, yeah, yes, I did.
Yeah,
check out my podcast, the ClickerCast, every Tuesday.
Well, that's the point. Like, we normally, when there's a big TV show like Game of Thrones or whatnot, we tend to get together, or we talk about it in our chat groups on WhatsApp and stuff. And when we have a few beers, we talk about like big moments. And this is 9 episodes where they're seemingly going to have loads of those big moments, high production value. I can't wait to see what the clickers look like, how Pedro and Bella kind of tackle it. I'm intrigued to see how Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker are kind of funneled into it. Because they're
expanding the world a bit as well. I think there's stuff where they said they're going to look into how the outbreak has affected not just a small part of the US, like into other countries and things. So it looks like they're setting themselves up for like a long run, probably potentially even beyond Joel and Ellie.
Well, I have said,
agree.
The director, I think Neil Druckmann, said they're not going to do anything beyond the games as well. So don't think they're going to go Game of Thrones off the page style and start doing things you've not seen. I think
when I say beyond Joel and Ellie, I don't mean going past Last of Us 2, but I mean like exploring what's happening at the same time of the games.
Yeah, I think that's the most interesting
exploring
thing
stuff
for
that
me.
we haven't seen.
Yeah, Neil Druckmann's actively said that there's parts that they wanted to include in the game, but they either couldn't get it into the story or it wasn't the right tone or something. And the set scenes
didn't flow.
How
do you go from like not Billstown? What's the name of it? I can't remember. Joel's brother, like
Tommy.
You know, when you first meet Tommy, when you meet him at the water plant, to like the start of Last of Us 2 when they have this little village.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
what's happening in Jackson?
There's years of stuff that's happened there, that transition, that hasn't been told. There's stuff like Abby, like from Last of Us 2, like we know bits of her like childhood bringing up from flashbacks, but there's a lot still to explore with her.
Yeah, well, she's technically in it and around throughout the Last of Us experience. You just don't see her story until part 2. So there's loads of stuff. I can't wait to see Nick Offerman as well as Bill. I think he's going to absolutely smash it out the park. Yeah. His relationship with Frank, which obviously, spoilers for the game, you don't really see that much of Frank, but in the show you're probably going to. There's just a whole thing I can't wait for it. And the fact that it's like this Monday, so soon, can't wait for it. And of course, you viewers and listeners out there, join us Tuesday, 8 p.m. after this show, later on tonight in fact, for our first episode of the ClickerCast. So you breathe. It's got to me. It sounds like I'm getting emotional, but really I've got a cough that's like it's ready to go, but I don't want to cough into the microphone. So we'll wrap things up right here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click that bell so you're kept in the loop with all the great content we do here at Helix Plays Games, like our live streams, Let's Plays, First Looks, and much, much more. Don't forget to check out this week's Xbox podcast, XPass, that one live yesterday, live streams on Thursday, ClickerCast on Tuesday, and all the more. If you want to support the channel a little bit more, you can do so by clicking join below on the YouTube video. Become a Helix Hero like over 50 of you do and support the channel for special badges, stickers and more. My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie.
And I've been Rob.
Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Play it whatever makes you the happiest, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.